Hey guys, John V here from PhoneArena. Right now you're watching our in-depth video comparison between the original Samsung Galaxy S4 with TouchWiz and of course the newcomer here, the Galaxy S4 Google Play Edition. Now we know that both handsets are pretty much the same on the outside in terms of design and the hardware, but it's with the software experience that we find the biggest one. Do we find one that it's more advantageous versus the other? Let's find out in this comparison right now. So there's nothing different about their designs. They are almost identical to one another, except for one thing. If you look at the back of the US version, the Galaxy S4, there's a Galaxy S4 branding right there. It's not present here in the Google Play Edition. You both have the Samsung brandings as well. But the design is familiar. You have plastic bodies. The white does a great job of masking any fingerprints and smudges. Very thin profile, so super skinny. And on top of that, they're lightweight, so the in-the-hand feel isn't that bad, especially when considering the size of the handsets. Physical home buttons on both, check and check, same exact responses, and they're also surrounded by the capacitive Android buttons, the menu and back keys. Meanwhile, above the displays, we find the same set of gear. You have the earpieces, you have the LED notification lights, the light and proximity sensors, the same 2-megapixel front-facing cameras. But as far as the IR ports are concerned, it's only on the TouchWiz version that it's active. So basically, you could use it for the various air gestures that it has to offer. Likewise, we could say the same thing about the IR blaster that are found on the top edges of both handsets. Only in the TouchWiz model that's active, so it turns it into a universal remote. Also on the top edges, you have their noise cancellation microphones and 3.5mm headset jacks. The volume controls on their left edges are nice and distinct and have good responsive feedback. While the same thing can be said about their dedicated power buttons too. And lastly, you have their micro USB ports and standard microphones. Armed with the same 13-megapixel autofocus cameras with LED flashes, you know they're not messing around when it comes to taking photos. They're enabled for 1080p video recording too, and along the bottom edge you have 2 notches on the 2 for their internal speakers. Something that continues to be a staple with Samsung's devices, things we actually like, is the fact that they have removable back covers to gain access to their same size batteries. You have micro SD card slots to support their internal storage capacity, and of course their micro SIM slot as well. They're just simply gorgeous looking. The displays on these two just have a lot of wow factor. Same size, 5-inch Super AMOLED HD display, same resolution, 1920 by 1080 resolution, so you get some crisp looking visuals and clarity with them. And seeing that they are AMOLED panels, you have the same qualities: saturated color reproduction, wide viewing angles, a pretty good strong brightness output. But there's a slight advantage in terms of the functionality, and that's with the TouchWiz version of the Galaxy S4. Essentially, you could use the air view features that the display has to offer to see some pertinent information. So essentially, you could hover over different elements. For example, here in the calendar, you could see your appointments and you get a preview. That's not something that's enabled with the Google Play Edition. Both handsets share the same design and hardware, but it's in the software that we see the biggest changes. Interestingly enough, they're both running Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean, but it's a stock experience here on the Google Play Edition, which is far more cleaner looking and not as cluttered looking compared to its rival here. Of course, you have TouchWiz, which has some enhancements, but as far as the general presentation of the UI, it's a little bit more cartoony looking than anything else. Beyond that, you have all the same base elements of Android intact. You have that rich set of personalization, so you could add a bunch of different widgets on the home screen. The notification panels act very similar to one another. You could gain access to some connectivity features all from there, and even the lock screens are pretty much identical as well. You could check out some widgets on the sides by swiping over a little bit, and you could also jump right into the camera as well if you want. Seeing that the Google Play Edition is running stock Android, it's most certainly going to get updates faster than its TouchWiz counterpart, just because there's less tinkering needed with having optimizations done with the platform. However, when it comes to the feature set, the Google Play Edition and stock experience pales in comparison to what the TouchWiz one has to offer. So what you get here with the TouchWiz Nature UX experience, you have all the S-branded services: S Voice, S Translator, S Health. And on top of that, all the myriad of different functionality too. For example, you could use the air gestures to actually swipe and scroll up and down in the web browser. It's also very useful when it comes to listening to music. If you're doing dishes, you have wet hands, you could swipe left and right to either fast forward or track reverse. And on top of that, you have again the air view features, functionality that the experience has to offer. So basically, what you do is just hover your finger over certain elements, and you get a quick preview of it. Like we said, the two are running the same set of hardware. So what you get in terms of the processing power are 1.9 gigahertz quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 processors that are coupled by 2 gigabytes of RAM and of the Adreno 320 GPU. Now, in terms of just raw performance, we're going to hand it to the Google Play Edition just by a little bit, just because we noticed that it is far more snappy with its performance. You can see a little bit jitteriness with the TouchWiz one here. It's not bad, but you just still get that sense of speed with the Google Play Edition. As far as general basic task, opening up applications, they pretty much work in the same manner, but for more complex or more graphically intensive operations, you definitely notice that the TouchWiz version here just has a little bit more stutter with its performance, but it's not terrible at all. As you can probably tell, the keyboard layouts are pretty much almost the same in terms of their spacing and whatnot, but the layout's a little bit different. With the TouchWiz version, you get just a dedicated row strictly for numbers and easy access to a bunch of punctuations directly from the main layout. On the Google Play Edition with the stock Android keyboard, you have a row for numbers, but they're incorporated into the first row, so you got to do long presses. And as far as punctuations, you got to get into a different layout to access them. They're the same level of responsiveness, which is nice, so they're very easy and quick to use, and they both feature the same swiping methods if you prefer doing that. But as far as usefulness, you just have a slight advantage with the TouchWiz version. You can't go wrong with 4G LTE connectivity and the Google Chrome browser, so essentially the experience is identical to one another. You have fast page loads, some fluid navigational controls, and instant page rendering. But with the TouchWiz version, of course, you're going to get also an option as another alternative for surfing the web. You have the stock web browser, which actually utilizes the air gesture movements, so you could scroll up and down by doing that, or move between windows by doing gestures left and right. With the Google Play Music application in tow with both, you can have the same presentation and functionality you'd expect. So if you're a subscriber to Google's All Access feature, you could stream music on the fly, which is wonderful. Audio quality is both identical too. You have strong, loud tones that are crisp. They sound even pleasant at the loudest volume setting. With the TouchWiz version, you also get the chance to use as an alternative the TouchWiz Music Player. It's okay, but again, it's not as comprehensive compared to what the Google Play Music app offers. Another hallmark feature that we find useful in the TouchWiz version of the Samsung Galaxy S4 is its support for multi-windows, which is far better when it comes to multitasking, just because with standard Android, you just have to move around with the open applications listing here. But with this, it's pretty neat just because you could have one application open and at the same time have the other one running on the bottom. So it's basically like a split screen mode, which is very useful. Out of the box, the TouchWiz version of the Galaxy S4 has more support for different video codecs, but they don't have any issues playing high-definition videos whatsoever. Very smooth and responsive. Now, with the TouchWiz version, it just has, again, more features. You can use the air view to actually hover in the timeline to get a preview, and you can even use pop-up play to have the video layered on top of whatever you're doing, so you get better multitasking with it. If variety is more your kind of thing, you're going to appreciate what the TouchWiz version of the Samsung Galaxy S4 has in terms of feature set and control over its Google Play Edition rival. Now with the Google Play, very basic and elementary. You have just a few different shooting modes and options you could change, but you have the neat feature of photo sphere, so you could actually use it for those 360-degree shots, but it just pales into comparison to the myriad of features that are found with the TouchWiz experience, from panoramic, eraser, you have the best shots, sound shots. All those features just make it far more ample when it comes to feature set. And at the same time, you have also some manual controls. You could actually take a snapshot by saying something as opposed to pressing the on-screen shutter key. No surprises here whatsoever, folks. Seeing that they have the same 13 megapixel autofocus camera, they produce the same level of quality, just exquisite looking photos, especially ones outdoors where there's plenty of lighting. You get a lot of crisp looking details, some vivid looking colors, and handles dynamic range fairly well too. It's only in lower lighting conditions where you see a little bit of stutter with the quality, but their LED flashes work well to compensate their flaws. Even though it's the newer device, the Google Play Edition doesn't really improve with the call quality. They're actually identical. And overall, it's rather average by today's standards. We weren't really impressed or disappointed with the two. With their earpieces, voices tend to have a little bit of robotic tone, and the same thing can be said about their speakerphone quality. On the other end, line of callers didn't have too much of a problem. They had a better experience, actually, as agreed to voices that are distinct and also clear. It's probably attributed to stock Android, but we have better battery life with the Google Play Edition of the Galaxy S4. In fact, with the TouchWiz version, we're able to inch out barely a day out of its full battery. In contrast, the Google Play Edition gets us close to 2 days. At the end of the day, pricing is still a major driving force for anyone purchasing a device. The Google Play Edition of Samsung Galaxy S4 retails for $650, whereas with the TouchWiz version, you can pick it up on contract for $200. So you get savings on this, but with the Google Play Edition, it's yours to keep. There are no contracts required with it, and it is also unlocked to work with AT&T or T-Mobile. The other thing you want to think about is just the experience. Which one's going to be the better one for you? Now, if you're hardcore Android, there's no question about picking up the Google Play Edition with its stock Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean experience. We see a noticeably faster performance with this handset, and also improved battery life. But at the same time, you're going to get updates faster than its TouchWiz counterpart here. Now, the benefits of the TouchWiz version is that you gain a lot of features. Sometimes they might be regarded as gimmicky, but at times other people will say they're very useful. You have things like air view, you have air gestures, you have even the multi-screen support. So all that just shows the kind of totality that the TouchWiz experience has to offer. But then it just depends on your preference which one you want to go with. So if you want to learn more about either devices, guys, you could check out our website, PhoneArena.com. This is John V. Thanks for watching.